Hello everyone and welcome to this Learning TradeStation series. My name is Jesus. I'm broadcasting from the city of Plantation right here in Florida. Welcome to this class. The topic of today's Learning TradeStation is trading options with OptionStation Pro. In today's class, these are our objectives. Of course, the title is Trading Options with OptionStation Pro. We're going to teach you how to load and filter option chains, how to analyze and graph options positions, how we can trade single options and spreads, how to manage real positions, how to use activation rules and OCO, OSO orders for options, and then we'll finish off with using the OptionStation Pro Search. Just an important disclosure before we get started, this presentation is for educational purposes only, so every symbol and idea that I use here is not a recommendation of TradeStation. Everyone should be aware of the risks that are associated with trading online. It's not suitable for everyone, and it should only be done with the risk capital, especially when it comes to options which carry a high degree of risk. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch the screen over to my TradeStation platform. OptionStation Pro has been fully integrated into the platform so that in order for you to access OptionStation Pro, you do have to launch TradeStation. Once in TradeStation, we go at the top and go to the Apps tab or the Apps bar. And over here, you're going to find a button for OptionStation Pro. There it is. And once you click on it, it's interesting because instead of containing OptionStation Pro within a particular workspace, we made OptionStation Pro launch as a separate application. And the reason being is because we wanted to take advantage of the space in your computer monitor and be able to use it all. So let me go ahead and bring it up. It actually opened up on my second screen, so I'm just going to pull it up. You're going to see that the font, it's a little bit small. So let me go ahead and show you how you can change the font in OptionStation Pro if you feel that it's a little bit small for you. So we come over here to the appearance, and I'm going to change the font to a size 10. It does tell me that in order for those font settings to take effect, I have to start OptionStation Pro again. So let me go ahead and close OptionStation Pro by clicking on the X on the top right, and I'm going to go to Apps one more time and click on OptionStation Pro. When you first open up OptionStation Pro, it's going to be loaded with the last symbol that you were looking at. Okay, here it is, the font, it is a little bit bigger. All right, let me go here to the way that you would usually see it. All right, perfect. Okay, so as I was saying, when you first open up OptionStation Pro, it comes preloaded with the last symbol that you were looking at. So if you look over here on the top left corner, I see the symbol, Walmart. And if I go to the drop down, OptionStation Pro will remember the last 10 symbols that I have used. That way, if you are looking at a list of different underlying assets, you can quickly come to this drop down and just click on the symbol you want to see. Now this drop down right here has a setting where you can increase the number of symbols that are remembered. By default, it remembers the last 10. But if you'd like to increase or reduce that number, come over here to the right-hand side of OptionStation Pro. You're going to see a Settings tab. And in the Settings tab, you have a setting here that says Maximum MRU Symbols. MRU meaning most recently used. You can see here that it's 10, but you can increase that number. All right, talking about how to load option chains and how to filter them. As soon as you have an underline on the top left corner, option chains are going to be loaded for that underline, in this case Walmart. So I see the option chain right here in the middle of the screen in this area right here. But before I go to the option chain, I want you to point out here at the very top, you have information that pertains to Walmart. We have the last traded price, which is $101.58. We have the bid and ask information, the high, the low, volume, and we have historical volatility. It also tells you if you have a position open on Walmart, which I do. I own 500 shares, and the fact that it's a plus sign lets me know that I'm long 500 shares of Walmart right here in my OptionStation Pro. So I don't have to go and check my trade manager to see I have an open position. It tells me my position amount right here at the top of OptionStation Pro. There are several column headers or information that you can add here at the top of OptionStation Pro. If you right-click on any of the column headers, you can click on Customize Columns, and over here on the right are the ones that are currently visible, but over here to the left are ones that you can add. So if there's any additional information you want to see for Walmart, you can just click on the actual item. Let's say that we want to see the VIX volatility number. We can add it. It'll go right here on the right-hand side. You can position it using the move up or the move down buttons. And once I click OK, I see the VIX volatility value right here. Let's go ahead and change the symbol because I really want to have a symbol for which I don't have a position open. I can come here to the symbol box and I can type in BAC. Let's see for Bank of America. I hit enter and it loads the options for Bank of America right now. I look at my position header over here and it has no position. So it's going to load option chains. As you can see, they're going to be grouped by expiration. And I believe by default, it'll open up on the most recent or the upcoming expiration on a monthly term. So the first list of options that you see are the ones that are going to expire. As you can see the date here, the 16th of February 2018. 8 days to expiration. So every row inside parentheses, it will tell you how many days there are left before these options expire. All right, and you can click on the little button here to the left to collapse and maybe open up another one. Let's say that we want to look at the March monthly options. We click over here. Now the ones that have a different term, for example, the weeklies and the quarterlies, will specifically say that. Here we have the weeklies and we have the quarterly options available as well as a separate expiration, so you can open those up as well. Remember that in order for you to run OptionStation Pro, your account needs to be enabled for options data. Not necessarily have an options trading account, but you need to have real-time data on options. Not only on the underlying, for example, if you have real-time data for Bank of America, that's good, but there's another package that gives you real-time data for options, and you need that in order to be able to load data here in OptionStation Pro. You can see implied volatility right here on the right-hand side. See, this is implied or average implied volatility for all the options that are inside a specific expiration. So this is implied volatility, and you also have the expected move based on that volatility. How much is that, these options expected to move up or down based on the volatility. Right here in the middle, you have strike prices. You also have a bid and ask column that are colored and also allow you to click on them. These are clickable fields so that you can do some action. We'll get to that in a moment. But I want to point out the filtering drop downs that you have up here. You have a drop down for spread, which pretty much gives you a list of common spreads that you can build in OptionStation Pro. Right now I have single selected, so every row that you see here is for a specific expiration and a specific strike price. But if I were to click on vertical, for example, you're going to see how the strike prices right here are paired up into a vertical. And the prices that you see in the bid and ask are pretty much the pricing of that vertical, as opposed to the individual legs. So if I go over here to my singles, the prices get updated, and these are the prices of the individual legs. Also, you find a filter drop-down. Let's take a look at some of the filtering functionality here. First of all, you have the ability to increase the number of strike prices above and below. So not only you have the option to select strike prices up here, notice that we have a dedicated strikes drop down allowing you to increase the number of strikes seen. I can go up to 40 or even display all the different strike prices, which increases the number of strike prices available for the underlying. So let's go back to 10, which pretty much gives you 5 above and 5 below. The filter over here gives you a little bit more control so that you can have a number for below of at the money and then above at the money. So that's interesting. If you want to focus on a particular side of the market, you can do these numbers as well. Over here, I have a drop down for number of expirations. It's set to all. But if you do not want to load all those options to your OptionStation Pro, because remember, the more options you load in OptionStation Pro, the more it'll use your internet bandwidth and also your system resources. So try to keep the usage of expirations and strike price to what you're really needing so that you don't tax your computer with a lot of information updates. Here I have all expirations, so you can see that my expirations go up to the year 2020. And over here we have the expiration types. They're all selected. If you are an options trader that only trades monthly options, you can just uncheck the other two. The same if you're a weekly options trader, you can just uncheck the other two. But here we'll just leave them all selected. And we have the deliverables. We have some underlines that have non-standard deliverables and some underlines that have mini options. You know, if you check these boxes and nothing happens to your chain, it's probably because it doesn't apply to the underline that you're looking at. So come over here if you want to see those non-standard and mini options. And the spread width over here is going to control how far apart you want your strike prices and how far apart you want your expirations in a spread. Depending on the type of spread you're selecting, if it's a vertical or a calendar, sometimes you want to space out that expiration or the 2 expirations, 3 expirations, or the strike prices. It does give you the ability to increase the spread width. And I'll just demonstrate that to you very quickly. If I go to vertical, you can see that it's pairing up the 30 with the 31, the 31 with the 32. But what if I wanted to pair up the 30 and the 32? Well, I just come over here to my filter and I say I want the spread width to be a little bit higher, to 2. So now notice how the strike prices over here are not next to each other. They go from 30 to 32, from 31 to 33, and so on. So that's what the spread width does. You can come here and reset all the settings and then click on Apply so that it resets everything to the way that it comes by default. So this is a way that you load options, you filter the options, and you look at expirations right here in the Options tab of OptionStation Pro. Something that I didn't mention at the beginning of the class, if you look at the bottom of your OptionStation Pro, is that there's 4 main tabs. You have Options, you have Analysis, you have Manage, and you have Search. We're going to take a look at all of these, and let me just clear some of this information out so that we can take it from the very beginning. So I'm going to go back here to my single options. And take a look at some of the other functionality that it's available. Let's talk about analyzing and graphing options positions, because I think that's important, and there's a lot of features on the graphing side that I want to go over. Every time that you click on the bid or ask, there's an action associated with that click. And over here on the top right corner of OptionStation Pro, there's a click to analyze trade or click to trade. So it has 2 behaviors. You can either click on the bid or the ask to generate a trade, or you can click on the bid or the ask to analyze the trade. If I leave it on, let me show you what happens when I leave it on trade. If I click on any of the bid and ask, let's say that I want to buy a call with a strike price of 30. I know that it's being quoted at $1.53. If I click on this price, which is the asking price, that's what the option's being sold at, I click on it and you can see how the trade bar pops up from the bottom. So if I'm not ready to trade, if I want to do some analysis of my positions before they turn into a trade, I may not want to do that. Let me go ahead and clear this out. I'm just going to click on the X right here on the right, and I'm going to click on this hide button from the trade bar. I'm going to come over here to the top right and say I want to click to analyze trade. And I want you to see something. This is Bank of America. The bid and ask field right here at the top, where you see the information for the underline, these are clickable buttons too. So if I click on the asking price of Bank of America, which is $30.73, it'll generate a simulated position. In other platforms, it's called a theoretical position. Let me show you. I'm going to click here on the asking price of Bank of America, and that's going to switch me over to my analysis tab. You know, it happens automatically. If that drop down at the top right corner of OptionStation Pro says click to analyze trade, once you click on the bid and ask, it'll switch you over to the analysis tab for you to analyze what you just did. In this case, look at the position right here. This is an equity position. It's going to be a buy, 500 shares of Bank of America, and it's an equity. It's a trade. Here's the price, $30.67. So it gives you information like the maximum profit is infinity and the maximum loss is 15,332. Why is that the maximum loss? Because that's the value of your position. If you multiply the 500 shares times the price, which is $30.69, you get exactly your maximum loss. So if Bank of America were to go bankrupt and you are holding 500 shares in your account, that would be your loss right there. And you can see the graph. Let me go ahead and there's a divider right here between these two panels that allow you to resize this. I'm just going to resize so we can see more of the graph. Let me remove all this. And you can see how the graph looks like a diagonal line. It goes from the bottom all the way to the top over here. The graph has the prices of the underlying right here at the bottom axis. These are the prices of Bank of America. One nice feature of the price scale at the bottom is that you can click on any of the prices, click, and then you can drag in or to the left, which means that it's going to compress the price scale, or you can click and drag to the right, which is going to expand the price scale and give you more detail. So in an equity position, your profits can go up to infinity, and your losses go all the way down to zero. Right here, the middle of this graph is my zero line. So this is my zero. You can see the P&L here on the left-hand side, and you have positive numbers going up and negative numbers going down. The current price of Bank of America is somewhere around here on the break-even right here. Where the line crosses the zero, that's where the current price of Bank of America is. And as Bank of America moves up in price, you're going to see how the line is going to reflect your P&L here on the left-hand side. So as it goes up, you make money, and as it goes down, you lose money. So let's go ahead and try to modify this graph. I'm going to go back to my option chain. And remember that this is a simulated position. I'm going to go back to my option chain and say, well, if I'm holding 500 shares of Bank of America and I want to protect my position with a put, I can do that. So I want to come over here. I know that it's trading around 30, and I'm going to buy a put. So I'm going to go over here to the put side of my option chain, and I'm going to click on the asking price because I want to buy the put. So if I want to buy a put for a price of, let's say I want to buy it the price with the strike price of 32, I click on the asking price here of $1.93, and that sends the information right here again to my analysis tab. So notice what just happened. I added buy 5 contracts, which is equivalent to 500 shares of Bank of America. I see the expiration date, and I see the strike price of $32. Now, one thing that happened is my graph changed. Now, you don't see that line going diagonally to infinity on both sides. Now something changed. Why? Because now you have purchased a put that pretty much changes the risk of your position. Now it's not going to go all the way down to a $15,000 loss because this call has a maximum loss of $975. Now these two positions that you see down here are separated, and I can combine them into one position. Let me show you how to do that. I have a single put and I have my equity position up here. In order for you to combine these two positions, you can click somewhere here on the left-hand side to where the main row is, and you see this minimize or that's minus, which collapses the view, and the plus, which expands the view. If you go to the left of that and you click and drag, take a look at what happens. When I click and drag, it's going to, and I put my cursor on top where the equity is, it's going to give you this shade of purple, letting you know that you can take that row and drop it on top of another. And you can do it the other way as well. If you want it the other way, you can click on the equity, click over here on the left, and drag it down. And you can see a similar glow, a similar highlight, letting you know that you can drop that on top of this other one. When I drop it, notice what happens. It combines the two positions into one, and now it's calling it a covered married stock because that's what it is. You have an equity position, and you are marrying it or covering it with a put. So that's pretty much what we did here. So we combined the two legs, and you can see here that the maximum profit is still infinity, but the maximum loss is not the $15,000 that you saw previously. Now we're putting a limit at $285. Why? Because we own a put to sell Bank of America at a strike price of 32. And that gets reflected right here on the graph. You can see that there's a flat line right here at the negative number which is your maximum loss for this position. So whenever you want to create a or establish an options position, you can always come here to the graph and see how your P&L gets affected, which I think it's very, very important. Let's go ahead and take a look at another trade. I'm going to come over here to my options, and we are still talking about analyzing and graphing positions. But here on my options, I want to build a vertical. Verticals can be built by using the vertical option right here for spread, and OptionStation Pro will build the spread for you. So if I click on the actual asking price on the call, it's going to buy into this vertical and create what's called a debit spread. This is a debit spread. You can see the vertical down here. Now notice how all these simulations are still right here in the analysis tab, and you have the option to keep them there or to remove them. That's up to you. And what I do sometimes is I just uncheck them so that they're not factored into the graph. The graph will always graph the P&L profile of everything that is checked down here. So if I uncheck the covered merit stock, you can see how the graph gets adjusted. So I can do that for every position that's here to see the P&L of that particular position. Let's go ahead and take a look at the vertical. So I did say that you can create the vertical by just selecting vertical from the options dropdown. Well, let me go ahead and remove this. Over here on the right, you have an X that allows you to remove this vertical from your simulation. So I'm going to click it, and you can see that it goes away. I'm going to go back to my options and show you something very interesting as well. I'm going to go back to my single calls or single options, and you can build your spread by holding down the control key. This is a combination of keyboard and mouse. You hold down the control key and you click on the strike prices that you want to add to your vertical or any other position. So let me show you. I'm going to hold down my control key. I'm going to click on the ask price right here, and I'm going to click on the bid price over here. You can see at the bottom, I see my vertical. It pops up the trade bar at the bottom. I'm not ready to trade it, so I'm going to come over here to the right-hand side, and there's an ellipsis button here on the right-hand side that allows you to analyze the trade. So again, in order for you to build spreads manually, hold down the control key and click on each one of the legs that you want your spread to be built with. I'm going to click here and analyze trade. Okay, and that sends the same vertical over here to my screen. So this is the vertical that is being displayed right here on the graph. A little bit about graphing, because that's something important. Graphing is going to give you the P&L valuation of the position, not only how it's valued right now, but how it's valued at expiration. And if you look over here on the top left, you see a legend that lets you know that the white line is today. That's today's date right now, February 8th. And the cyan line is at expiration, which is March 16th. So that's what the two lines mean. Down here, below the graph, you have the ability to add slices. So I can click on add, or it's going to add a row of information tied in with the last traded price, which is $30.51. And notice how there is a plot drop down allowing you to select what line you want to base your calculations on. So if you want to see what the value of the vertical is right now, and I set it to plot 1, which is the white one, which is right now, that's based on the date over here. And you can see that my theoretical P&L is changing in real time. It's -10. So right now I'm losing $10 on this vertical. But what would happen if the price were to go up or down? You can come here and change the price manually and can say, what happens if it goes up to 35? Hit enter. If it goes up to 35, your P&L will be $193. But if I come here and I change it to 30, then my P&L would get affected as well. One thing that I like to do, which you can do on your own OptionStation Pro as well, is click on the drop-down of this pinned option, and you can select different slices. Like, for example, this one that I'm highlighting, it's a -5%, last, and +5%. If I click there, it'll give you 3 different scenarios. If Bank of America drops 5%, if it keeps at the last trading price, or if it increases by 5%, and what effect does that have on your P&L? I think it's something really interesting and very valuable. This is right now. what if you want to know what the value of the option is at expiration? Well, very easily I can come here to the plot dropdown and change it to plot number 2, which is expiration. And at expiration, my vertical, if the price were to go up 5%, will generate a $220 profit. So use this as a sandbox and play around what would happen to my position if something happened to the price. A couple more things before I go on to trading that I wanted to point out here. Right here at the top right of the graph, you have the ability to adjust the standard deviations. If you look at the graph, there's a shade of lighter gray. I think that everybody sees that. The light gray here is the probability that in this case Bank of America would go from this low price, which is about $27.75, to this price over here, which is 33.41. So based on one standard deviations, which you can see the one up here on the top right, this is a one standard deviation. There's a 68% based on the standard deviations calculation. There's a 68% chance that Bank of America will be between this price, $27.75, and this price, $33.39. An interesting way of looking at the probabilities. Now, if I were to click on my price scale here and compress it a little bit, I can go over here and increase my standard deviations up to 2. 2 standard deviations mean that there's a 95% probability that Bank of America will be between this price, which is about 25. If you hover over the graph, I'm not sure if you can tell, but there's a small price that's at the bottom of the graph letting you know what price your cursor is on. And if you come over here to the right, you see the maximum, $36.64. There's a 95% probability based on historical volatility. Now I can see the historical volatility of Bank of America up here, which is at 19.78%. This historical volatility can be adjusted as well. This is based on a 90-day trading period. So in the last 90 days, it looks at how the prices of Bank of America moves, and it's going to calculate that volatility. If you come over here to the settings tab, you can change the historical volatility bars back. It's right now set to 90, and that is what calculates the historical volatility right here at the top. Okay, you can inverse the probability. Right now we have in the money, but you can do out of the money, and just inverses the colors right there. You can see the dark in the inside and the light in the outside. So the default is in the money. And over here you can choose, if I go to the drop down, you can go to the nearest expiration. If it's a spread, it'll go to the nearest expiration. Or you can click on the calendar and choose a valuation at a particular date. So if I want to see the valuation of this vertical by next Friday, I can click on February 16th, and it'll give me the valuation based on this expiration. All right. Perfect. This is for the probabilities. Okay. Now you can add another slice to this, which pretty much tells you what the valuation is at a certain expiration. You can add another line. So if I wanted to add another line, I come here to the settings tab, and there's different plots. This is expiration plus 1 day. So if I click here, I can say give me expiration and 2 days. You can see on the left-hand side that a brand new line was added. The green line is right here. And if you look on the far left, you can see the date that green line corresponds to, February 26th. So if I wanted to see the valuation closer to today's date, maybe the 16th, I'm going to slide this little slider. And at the same time, I'm going to take a look at the date right on the left-hand side, because as you move this left and right, you're going to see how the date gets adjusted on the left. So I can drop it on February 16th, which is next Friday, and this would be the valuation of my spread based on the green line. So you can come here and say, what is the valuation here? I'm going to set it to plot number 3, which is next Friday, and you can see what those values are based on that holding period of next Friday. Let's go ahead and trade some of these options. I'm going to click on this vertical. From my simulations, I'm going to click over here on the right-hand side. There's an ellipsis or 3 dots. When you click on it, you can trade it. You can trade it. You can analyze a duplicate trade or analyze an opposite trade. You can delete the position if you don't want to see it in the simulations. But in this case, I'm just going to trade it. And when you do that, take a look. It's going to transfer that vertical down to my trade bar. We've seen the trade bar before. OptionStation Pro, it's getting ready to trade. I see my vertical information over here. I can adjust the quantity, the type of order, the price that I want to get. This is the pricing right now. It's 56 cents, which is usually the mid price. If you keep on clicking on the mid button right here, it's going to transfer that mid price right here to the limit price. And the natural pricing would be the specific bid and ask of those particular legs. So I'm just going to come over here. And let's say that we want to improve our entry price. So I'm going to reduce this to maybe 45 cents. I want to pay 45 cents for this vertical. This is going to be intelligent. The duration is going to be day. And I'm just going to place the order. Okay, telling me that the price is 15% below the last quote. That's the way that I want it. I'm just going to click on yes. I do get my confirmation window letting me know the specifics of this order. And I'm just going to click on yes here so that the order gets sent. If you look at the bottom of my OptionStation Pro, you can see information on the last order sent in OptionStation. It says that the order was received, and it's an order to buy. You can see BTO right there, buy to open 5 contracts of the March 2018 30 call, and then a sell to open 5 contracts of March 2018 with a strike price of 31 at a limit price of 45 cents. That's the information that I'm reading right there at the bottom of the screen. Where do we see the order? Everything is managed right here, so let's go ahead and talk about managing your orders and positions as well. When you go to the Manage tab, you're going to see that OptionStation Pro is, again, divided in 2 main panels. You have the panel right here below, which is your positions, and you can resize that if you want. And then towards the top, you have today's orders that are grouped by status. So you have the received orders, you have filled orders, and have your canceled and your rejected. The received orders are the ones that are working for me right now. And I can open this up by clicking on the plus. This is the vertical that I just sent. And I know that it's trading a little bit higher than what I wanted. I put in a price of 45 cents, but I can come over here to the right to this ellipsis button, and I can click on it to cancel, replace the order. If I choose cancel, replace, it'll send that order again to the order bar, and I can say, well, let me try to fill it at the natural price, which is 55 cents. I place the order. It's going to give me the confirmation. I'm going to say yes, and you can see that I got filled. My limit price was 55 cents, but my filled price was 55 cents as well. Where do I see that position? And again, we go back to managing our orders. I come over here to my positions. My positions are going to give you a list of every single equity that you have in your account. I have, Bank of America, Cisco, Disney. If I want to see details on any of these, I just click on the little caret symbol, and it tells me what my position is for that particular underline. But the vertical that I traded just now is a vertical on Bank of America. So if I open up Bank of America, I can see my 2 single legs right there. One thing that you are going to notice is that when you put in a vertical or any type of spread in OptionStation Pro, and you go over here to your positions, you're going to see that the legs have been separated. And that's fine. That's totally fine, because that gives you a little bit of an advantage in the way that you can close this trade. Because I know that you entered a vertical, but what if you wanted to keep one side of that vertical? Let's say we wanted to keep the long side, and we come here and say, I'm going to get rid of that short side. So you come over here to the right-hand side. A lot of the menus are going to be displayed with that little 3 dots or the ellipsis button on the right. So I can click over here on the 3 dots and say close this position, but it'll only apply to this single leg. So when I click here, notice that it fills up my trade bar at the bottom. I'm going to say fill this at market, and I'm going to place the order. When that happens, you can see how that short leg disappeared and I only keep my long leg. So it's an interesting way of looking at your positions. The fact that you entered as a vertical does not mean that you have to exit as a vertical. You have complete control on what you can do to that trade. So let me go ahead and do another example. Let me go over here at the top, and I'm going to switch this to a different symbol. So let's go over here to Twitter, TWTR, and look at options on Twitter. Okay, Twitter is trading at $30.94. We see the option chain right here. One thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to build the verticals from my drop-down. There we are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the asking price of the 30.31, and it sends that to my analysis. I wanted to trade it. So let me go back to options, and instead of clicking to analyze trade, I'm going to switch this to trade. I'm going to trade this vertical, 30.31, so it populates the order bar. I'm just going to do market orders so that it gets filled. Place order. So this is the 30.31. And then I'm going to come here and trade the 32.33 on the put side. All right. I'm going to do a market order as well. So I'm trading two verticals. Now, when I come over here to the Manage tab, and let me go ahead and close Bank of America, and I open up Twitter, you see the four legs. You see the strike prices. Well, you don't see the strike price. You see the strike prices right here. The 30, the 31, the 32, and the 33. Again, you have complete control in the way that you want to exit your positions. You don't have to trade them in the same way that you entered. So the way you do that is by clicking and dragging these legs on top of each other. Remember we did that on the Analysis tab when we wanted to build our covered call. I think we traded a covered call. So here, I can do the same thing. I can start dropping, clicking, dragging, and dropping. Clicking, dragging, and dropping. So you put all those legs into one row by just clicking and dragging. Take a look at what happens. I click on the plus here. This is recognized as an iron condor, and I have all the four legs inside one position. So I traded them as verticals, but I can come here to the right-hand side, click on the ellipsis, and I can close this position as an iron condor. I'm going to go to market, so I get filled immediately. I place the order, say yes, and you can see how the position just gets filled when the position gets closed, and I'm out of the Twitter iron condor. One thing that I wanted to show you, using activation rules and OCO, OSO. We want to talk a little bit about some advanced features that you have at your disposal to be able to trade options. So let's go ahead and take a look. First of all, let's talk about activation rules. I'm going to come over here to my Analysis tab. I have a vertical down here. Let's say that we want to trade this vertical, so I'm going to come over here to the right and trade it. It populates my trade bar at the bottom, something really interesting. And something that I haven't pointed out is this checkbox that says activation rule. Now this is going to come very handy if you want to activate an order based on what's happening to any symbol. Let me show you. I'm going to click on the ellipsis or the formatting button here. I can set an activation rule based on time or an activation rule based on price, or I can do both. You know, sometimes you don't want to keep any positions open at the close of the day, so sometimes I send a trade that activates at 3:57 p.m. If you activate a trade at 3:57 p.m., this means that 3 minutes before the market close, I can send an order to close out a position if I wanted to do that. That's something you can do here with activation rules. Or you can say, I want to base the activation of this vertical, which has strike prices of 30 and 31, but I want to base the activation on what's happening to the underlying. So I'm going to type in the symbol for Twitter here, TWTR. I'm going to click on Add, and I want to set my rule right here. I want Twitter to be trading below a certain value or above a certain value. So I'm going to say if it's trading above or greater than, and I can say $31. As soon as it trades at $31, I want my spread to be activated. So I'm going to click OK here. And when I place this trade, let me show you. Even if I select a market here and I go to place order, that order is going to be received. If I go back to my Manage tab, I can see my order up here, the received order. And if I open it up, even though it was a market order, you can see here the type of order, it does have an activation rule tied in with it. Let me see, I don't see it here. Let me see if there's any other columns I can add. I'm going to come over here to the gear, customize columns. I'm going to add the advanced, because advanced is what tells me if there's any activation rules. And there it is. It actually opened up all my columns. So I can start double clicking on the divider so that it comes down and shows me less information. That's something you can do on your OptionStation Pro as well. But if you look at the advanced column right here, I can see activation rule, Twitter has to be trading at or above $31. Right now the price is $30.86. But when the price gets hit, when Twitter trades at $31, then my vertical will be filled because it's a market order. So that's something you can do on the trade bar. So again, to repeat, when you have a trade bar right here at the bottom, you have the checkbox here for activation rules. When it comes to trading OCO and OSO, OptionStation Pro does not have the built-in feature of allowing you to place an OCO. But when you switch over to TradeStation and you're looking at a window like the Matrix does allow you to place these more advanced orders. So let me show you what you can do. One thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to link my OptionStation Pro to the windows that are on my TradeStation, because sometimes you may want to look at a chart, you may want to trade from the Matrix, and that's something you can do very easily. Right here at the top right corner of OptionStation Pro, there's a linking button the same way that you find them in TradeStation. But if you notice, all these linking buttons are global because we want to go across different applications. Right here, we're going to create a link from OptionStation Pro all the way into TradeStation. So set that to a color that is global, and then I'm going to come over here to my TradeStation platform, and I'm going to say set this to green global and set this to green global. So these two charts, this chart and this matrix, right now they're set to Microsoft, but I'm going to go over here to OptionStation Pro, and I cannot do it on a vertical. These are set to vertical, so I have to come here and select a single view. This is a single view, and I can click on not on the bid or the ask, because those are fields that are clickable and it has a particular action. Click outside. Sometimes I just click on the next column over for the row that corresponds to the option you want to take a look at. Let me go over here to spiders. I'm going to go to SPY. It's going to load options for spiders, which are traded a lot. I just want to look at some options for spiders. So if I want to take a look at a chart of this strike, let's say that the strike is 260. I'm just going to come over here and click right here. I just clicked once. You don't see anything here in OptionStation Pro, but when I switch over here to my TradeStation, you can see that the chart has been switched to that call. You can see the symbol right here, the spider. This is 2018, March 16th. The C is the call, and 260 is the strike price. So this is the price activity of the call and how it's trading. Right now, you can see the price of $8.70. And you can see the price right here on the left-hand side as well. This is the price of the last traded price, and you see bid and ask information. But if you wanted to trade an OCO or an OSO, you have to do it from here, and you can only trade on single leg. So I can click on Attach OSO. Let's say that I want to do a, let's see what the distance here, it's set to 50 cents. I'm going to do 15 cents so that it's visible on the screen. You set the distance that you want. So I get the confirmation, I say yes, and the order goes through. Not only the order goes through, which is filled right here at 872, but you also have a target and you also have a stop in the form of an OCO. The market has been moving like crazy, and that's why we got filled immediately after putting in that trade. So if you want to trade OCOs and OSOs on the matrix or on chart trading, because you can also trade options and chart trading, just link your OptionStation Pro to TradeStation and it gives you that functionality. So let me show you that again. I go back to my OptionStation. Let's say that I want to take a look at the price activity of this 265 put. I just come over here to the right, I click it, and when I go over to TradeStation, that information was sent right here to the chart. This is the put with the strike price of 265, and the matrix has been also populated with that particular symbol. Perfect. I'm back on OptionStation Pro, and the last thing that I'm going to talk to you about is the OptionStation Pro Search. This is the last tab right here at the bottom of OptionStation Pro, and it's a way for you to look for positions that match your market outlook. You know, sometimes you have a certain perspective or a certain idea that the market will behave in a certain way, and you think that it's going to go up or down a certain percentage, but based on that idea, you want to find positions that would return the best value. So that's what the search is going to do for you. Let me go over here at the top and point out to a few pieces of information. This is spiders trading at 262. The volatility of spiders is 10.96%. This is using this model for options, the strike proximity. Let's just leave it as it is. Now, one thing that you have to keep in mind is the search is tied in with the options that are displayed in the options tab. So sometimes before I search, I come over here and I say, give me all strike prices, and this is set to all expirations. That way it has ability to search on all available options for this product. So over here, I have the strategy that I want to use. Notice that there's a drop down. You can choose what you want to trade. If it's a specific spread or you want to do just an outlook, let's say that I'm bullish and I want to take limited risk, I can do that. So let me select here. This will include, sell put verticals, buy call verticals, and buy calls. And over here on the right is where you have to supply what you think is going to happen to the market. So I come over here to the projected asset price and I say, I think spiders is going to go up by 15%. So you're bullish, you think it's going to go to $301. It tells you the price right here. And you're going to you think that that's going to take approximately a couple months. My holding period is until the end of April. So I set the date right there. And it's going to look for options that match my holding period as well. And the volatility change, if you think the volatility is going to change, and I think it's going to change maybe a lot based on the market conditions. Let's say that I want to make a 10% adjustment, and it's going to be a little bit higher at $12.06. So once you plug in what you think is going to happen to the market, here the filtering is going to include all types of strategies, and it's going to rank my results by the projected profit. When I click on Run Search, it's going to take a look at all the options that are available, and it's going to tell me, out of all the options that are there, which one is going to give you the best result. And we can see that is the top row right here. It's a single leg for spiders. This is the 21st of December of 2018. This is a December expiration with a strike price of 60. If you were to buy that call, this is a long call, that's the one that would have provided you with the best projected profit. Here's projected profit right here. It has a projected profit of almost $4,000 if you were to trade this, and, very important, if what you think is going to happen to the market actually happens. And you can do all sorts of checks and unchecks here. Let's say that I don't want to use call strategies. I'm going to uncheck the call strategies here. I'm going to run the search one more time. And now it's going to show me vertical would be the best projected profit. And this is trading the June expiration of the 290 and the 295 short put vertical. If you want to take a look at that, I can click on the Analyze button here on the right-hand side, and that is going to send that information over here to my Analysis tab. Let me go ahead and uncheck this covered merit stock, and this is what the graph looks like. This is the P&L graph of this vertical that I brought over from the Search tab. So use the Search tab as also a learning tool, and find out what are the possibilities here and what are all the different positions that I can trade that would provide me with the best results. not only the best results, but if I come over here to the drop down of projected profit, you can search, strategies that provide you with a favorable reward or reward risk ratio, or if you want to do probability of loss or probability of profit, you can rank all these possible positions by any of these fitness factors. Okay, great. Perfect. So we've pretty much completed the class at this point. We talked about how to load option chains and how to filter them. We talked about how to analyze these options using the graphing functionality. Or by the way, something that I forgot to tell you. Here at the top left, we have the ability to create a 3D graph. A 2D graph and a 3D graph is just a different display of the same data. It's not that you're getting more, it's just that it's a different view. See, right now on the 2D graph is a two-dimensional graph, and every expiration date is identified with a line. You have the cyan, which is expiration, and you have the white, which is right now. What if you wanted to do and see all the different dates from now until this expires? I can come here to the 2D and switch it to 3D, and this is exactly what this is doing. Not only am I able to see, this round line, which is the value of the vertical right now. Notice the date axis. My mouse is kind of dying on me. Okay. Here on the left, you see the expiration, or you see the dates, and you see from today's date all the way to the expiration and how the P&L of this spread gets affected. On this other side, what I'm doing, I'm just clicking and dragging. On this side of the graph, you can see the more straight line, which is pretty much when the option expires. So sometimes you can see by pulling up this 3D graph how the option spread is sensitive to the time value. So as it approaches expiration, you can see how sensitive the valuation is. So these are great tools that allow you to analyze specific positions. So let me switch this back to the 2D graph. We also talked about manage. Remember that the top panel gives you all your orders, the ones that have been received, the filled orders, also the ones that have been rejected or the ones that have been canceled. And you have full control over your orders by clicking on the ellipses right here for each one of the rows. And you have the positions down here, which you can also manage from within OptionStation Pro. So any of these positions, I can close them directly from here. Also remember that you can click and drag legs of options and combine them together, and you can do this with its underlined symbol as well. And then we lastly looked at the search tab, which pretty much helps you look for positions based on a market outlook. So that's everything I had for you guys. So I hope that you enjoyed the information. Thank you everyone for your time, and I hope to see you in a future event right here at TradeStation. Good night, everyone.